Warning, don't be a Karen if you're looking to return a car. You're actually not alone. 40% of all people who buy a car, they have buyer's remorse. So first off, I have to let you know there is no cooling off period here in any state. So what that means to you is once you sign that dotted line, you take the car off the lot, the car is yours. There's no take backsies. I worked in the dealership for years, and it would kind of blow your mind for the amount of people that would come into the dealership to try to return their vehicle. Plenty of people got rejected, but there was a select few that we would take care of, and we had a secret way to return the vehicle in a situation that they really didn't like it. Option one is to trade in the vehicle. Now, trading in the vehicle is going to be a little different than what we normally do. We're still going to follow the same steps. Before you go to the dealership, I want you to go to all these websites right here and get quotes on your brand new vehicle. Some of the websites might be confused. Sometimes you have to call in, but I want you to do the work ahead of time. You don't want to wait more than a day to try this process. So don't wait a week, don't wait 2 weeks. You want to do this immediately for the maximum effect. Get all those quotes. Once you have those quotes, go to the dealership. Normally I preach don't go to the dealership to negotiate, but this is a situation that's a little bit different. After you get to the dealership, I want you to try to work with the sales manager that actually worked the deal, not the salesperson. Obviously, if you need to work with the salesperson because the sales manager isn't available, but I preach work with the sales manager. They're the ones with all the power. There'll be no back and forth, and you're just going to tell them you're upset. Key point here. Don't go into here angry, upset, yelling, screaming, stomping your feet. I promise you this doesn't work. And the reason why this doesn't work is actually a thing called CSI, Customer Satisfaction Index. CSI is on a scale between 1 to 10, and anything below a 9 is failing. And these CSI scores have a huge impact on dealerships' inventory levels. So dealerships are going to bend over backwards to make sure that you are taken care of. Now, if you go in kicking and screaming upset, I promise you as a sales manager, I've seen it 1,000 times. If you try to take care of that person, normally they still kill you on the survey. So it's not even worth it to potentially lose money on a customer just so they can be upset later on and you get killed on both spots. So go in as nice as you can and just explain the situation. So I can't do a full video on how to negotiate a car deal, but you're going to negotiate through the car deal to make sure you get the best deal on this new car, and you're going to utilize the numbers you got earlier on your trade to figure out what the car you just bought yesterday is worth. If it all works out well, you should actually get a tax credit depending on the state, so you shouldn't lose money on the taxes. You might lose a few $100 on the trade. The trade number shouldn't be dramatic. They might tell you the car depreciates 20% immediately. That's not always the case, especially with a car 1 day old, but it does depreciate. Know that you probably won't get MSRP on the new car you just bought. That's just unrealistic. Also know if there was rebates involved, those are probably lost and gone. It's going to be really hard to get those back because if somebody was just to buy that brand new car again, they'd get all the rebates. So whatever you paid for the car, you should be looking. My goal is always to stay around $1,000 from that number. It's a good ballpark, and that should be about the loss you should take is right around $1,000. There are so many factors that go into this that $1,000 is just a good ballpark. If you lose $1,000 but get the car you want, I promise you in 5 years' time when you're driving the vehicle you really needed, you're not going to regret that $1,000. So no, that's like the worst case scenario. I've seen people lose $0. I've seen people lose 5, 10 grand. I can tell you those stories. But just know that sometimes this is going to happen. It's okay. Just know that's roughly what you're going to lose. Option 2 would be to sell the car outright. Now, this is the worst case scenario. The reason being in almost every state, there's a thing called tax credit. What that means is if you buy a car for $30,000 and your trade is worth $30,000, you will pay the tax on the difference, which would be 0. When you're trading in a car that you just bought, it's going to be very close to the car that you needed. So knowing that, you're going to pay minimal in tax. If you sell the car outright, you don't get that tax credit, meaning you paid for taxes on, let's just say, a $40,000 car, that's a few $1,000s, and you're never going to get that money back. So you're going to lose that money regardless. So trading is always better than selling. Now, the reason why you'd sell the car versus traded is if literally it's the last option. You bought a car, and for whatever reason, you just don't need a car anymore. I would say this is like 5% of people. Realistically, normally you just bought the wrong vehicle. And even if you trade for a cheaper vehicle, it's going to be a better option than losing all of that tax money. But know if you sell your car, you're going to lose that tax money. So what you're going to do is first off, you're going to go to all the websites I always recommend. Go there, get quotes on all the vehicles, have these numbers ready when you go to the dealership. And then go to the dealership first you bought it from. Tell them, hey, I'm not happy with it. I've decided I cannot own a car and I want to sell it back to you. See what the options are. After that, you want to go to every brand manufacturer within a 100-mile radius of you of that vehicle. So let me give you an example. Let's say you bought a Subaru Outback. You want to contact every Subaru dealership in your area and say, hey, I have a 2023, 2024 Subaru Outback that I would love to sell. It only has 50 miles on it. I can't own the car. What's the best offer? I'm shooting this out at other dealerships, and get quotes until you have the best number. Whatever that number is, sell it. I've seen people make money on this even outside of the pandemic. So know that you're probably going to lose some money. I would say at the very least, you're going to lose your tax money. But this is the worst case scenario in a situation that you could not live with the car. Wanting to return a car is a lose-lose situation. Nobody's happy. The only way to avoid the situation is to avoid it ever happening in the first place. And that's to buy the car you need in the first place. And that's what I talk about here on this channel. I teach people how to buy a car and make sure they avoid buyer's remorse for somebody that's been in the car industry as long as I've been walking.